Hello and welcome to day 2 of the Mid May Massacre, presented by Mainframe Comic Con, Shudder TV, and the good folks over at Trauma Entertainment. Over the next 7 hours, we're going to be celebrating everything there is to love about horror film, horror television, horror special effects, movie makeup, and of course, horror comic books. I am so excited to go ahead and kick off day 2 with a panel I've been looking forward to for months now. It is one of the coolest movies on the planet. You've heard about it all over social media. You're going to have a chance to watch it on Shudder when it premieres next weekend. The movie's called Psycho Gorman. We've got an amazing cast for you, so stick around, have fun. I want to give you a taste of what Psycho Gorman is right now. So thanks for being here at the Mid May Massacre. Enjoy the show.
Something's coming.
What, you got a dump?
Welcome back to the land of the living, Master.
Spare me the theatrics, Darkscream. What took you so long?
We came as soon as we could, my lord. Let me be the first to say that we're all so very glad to see that you're alive.
PG, are these silly little guys your friends? Why don't you introduce us?
You don't look very friendly.
Yes. Paladins. This is Mimi and her brother.
It's Luke. You should know my name by now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, imagination connoisseurs all around, I am your Viceroy of Verisimilitude, Robert Meyer Burnett. I cannot tell you how honored I am to host this panel. I love this movie. Psycho Gorman is, I live for films like this. We don't get enough movies like this anymore. It is such a hoot, and it belongs to that genre of wish fulfillment. I think as kids, and let's face it, as a middle-aged adult, I dream of being in control of an evil alien overlord that can destroy the entire universe. I've never had that opportunity, but the characters in this film do. So please welcome our esteemed panel, director Stephen Kasansky, nita-josee Hannah, and Owen Meyer, Mimi and Luke, and the director of Psycho Gorman. It debuts on Shudder next week. I have to say, because of my friend Dieter Bastian in Germany, I own the German media book. I own the physical media of this film. I adore this movie. I adore everything about this movie. I adore the cast and the direction. Stellar. And boy, did I have fun, man. If you had a bummer last year, and who didn't, Psycho Gorman is the antidote for you. So I want to thank all of you two, all three of you, for being in this movie and making this movie.
Oh,
My God.
Thank you very much.
What an honor to have you here, because, you know, you don't get fun genre movies like this. I feel I grew up with movies like this, and we just don't see them anymore. And you guys knocked it out of the park.
Well, I got to say, like 90% of that is our wonderful cast members here, Nita and Owen. Like, if they brought their A game to this movie and did such a fantastic job, and they're like the heart and soul of Psycho Gorman. So I just want to say thank you guys for making this movie the smash hit that it is.
Well, and you just corrected me. I'm going to call it. I've been saying Gorman. It's Psycho Gorman. I mean, that's
honestly, you can go either way.
No, it's
I
more
really
important.
don't mind.
You got to stress the gore. But I have to ask you, I mean, obviously you come out of makeup effects, Stephen, and you've directed, I mean, I love The Void. For you horror fans, if you guys haven't seen The Void, you should check it out. But I would love to know the genesis of this movie. I don't want to say, where did you get your idea? But I'm going to ask, where did this movie come from? How did you come up with this?
I mean, the movie really speaks to a lot of my very specific tastes. It's very much inspired by my youth growing up watching R-rated movies that I shouldn't have been watching.
Right.
So stuff like, Terminator 2 and RoboCop, and slightly more offbeat ones like stuff like Guyver 2. I remember watching because my parents thought like, oh, this has monsters in it. It's probably like Power Rangers or something. It ends up being like this brutally violent thing. So this movie's a little bit of me working through that trauma, and also just me like trying out this idea of like, well, what if you took like something like Rawhead Rex and mashed it with E.T. and like basically what if you smash two genres together that don't fit, which are like the like dark sci-fi horror movie and the fun kids adventure movie, and if you just like slap those together, what's going to happen? And so yeah, that's where the movie came from.
Well, I guess I would ask Owen and Nita, did you, when you got, well, you guys are still growing up, when you were growing up, did you watch movies? Have you found movies that you probably shouldn't have seen when you were young? Well, you're still young, and did you watch those? Did you ever do that? Do kids do that now?
Absolutely. I've seen way too many movies for my age. I was like 9 and I saw The Exorcist because my dad is a huge horror movie buff, so he's always kind of just enlightened me to the horror movie franchise.
What about you, Nita? Have you watched movies you shouldn't have been watching?
I was pretty into like Tupin Binu and stuff like that. So I wasn't really into that horror movie thing until maybe a few years ago, where I started watching more scary movies.
Right. So, Stephen, you also wrote the script, and what, when you sat down to do this, how long did it take you to write the screenplay?
Really not that long. It was a surprisingly quick turnaround on this movie. Like I had finished Leprechaun Returns and I had come back from South Africa, and that was when I started kind of jamming on this idea. So that was spring 2018. And I wrote a treatment, sent it off to the producers, and was like, how about this for a movie to make? And everybody jumped on pretty immediately. Like there wasn't a lot of like back and forth about like, maybe it should be more in this direction. Everybody's just like, this idea is crazy, let's make it. And so by like, I want to say like November 2018, like we were rolling cameras on this. So yeah, it's the fastest turnaround I've ever had on a movie.
You've just shattered the illusions of every independent filmmaker that's trying to get their next project off the ground.
I think what the moral of that story should be like, trust your instincts. And sometimes like endless discussion and debate doesn't necessarily improve a product. Like
right.
I like to go with my gut on stuff, and my gut told me that this was going to be a fun thing to make. And so I just pushed ahead on it. And that's why we have Psycho Gorman.
So you pulled the trigger pretty quickly. How did the casting process begin, and how did you find Nita and Owen?
We were pretty stressed about the casting on this movie, to be honest. Like that was the big concern that came back when I sent everyone the script, was like, how are you going to find actors to play these parts, especially like roles that require them to be this young? Like, like it was a daunting task, and it was something that, we cast a wide net, looking for self-tapes and auditions to try and find the perfect Mimi and Luke. But the crazy part is that both Nita and Owen were like so early in the process, and they just like kept coming back. Like I kept wanting to see like further auditions, and we did in-person auditions, and aside from just self-tapes. And yeah, it's just like my appreciation for them just only like grew and grew with each subsequent audition. Like it's really impressive, like how they impressed me so quickly and managed to stay on board, despite the fact that I feel like I saw like hundreds and hundreds of tapes of kids auditioning for this movie. But yeah, they just had the right chemistry and the right personalities. I knew they could pull off these characters like almost immediately after watching their first tapes.
Well, I guess Nita and Owen, did you get full scripts? Did you get the whole Psycho Gorman script, or did you only get, in the entertainment business, the sides are script pages where you might get a scene or two? You don't get the whole screenplay, but did you both get the whole screenplay to read when you were auditioning?
No,
we didn't, right? Yeah.
We would have like, I know my first audition that I did, it was just like a little scene. And I think I got like maybe 2 other new ones while auditioning a few other times. And that's pretty much all we got until it was for sure we got the part.
What was it like for you both, Owen, when you got your sides? Were you able, like, what did you think of this movie, Psycho Goreman, and you're reading the script pages? What were your first impressions? Like, what is this movie? What did you think when you first started reading the pages?
I thought it was insane. I thought at first I thought like, oh, this will never work. No one's gonna like this. And I read further into it. I was starting to be like, oh, this is kind of funny. This is really, really funny actually. And I didn't connect with Luke at first at all, actually. I didn't like Luke at all. And then when I started reading into him, I kind of started finding a few things that I could connect with him with. So no, I love the writing of this movie.
What about you, Nita? I mean, obviously you're sort of the heart and soul of this film in a way. What was it like for you to first read the pages, and like, did you have to show them to family members, and did you ask people like, well, what do you think of this?
Yeah, so when I first got the full script for the first time, I read through it a few times, and same as Owen, I was kind of like, this is kind of a weird kind of movie. Then I kept on reading it and picturing it in my head. Mind you, the visions that I had were not at all what came out. It was a lot more detail and time and effort that went into all these costumes. But I thought it was pretty cool. I immediately loved my part because it's very, it's very fun, upbeat, and it's, for me, the easiest parts to play. Even on set, I would kind of, when we were done filming, I'd still kind of be in that Mimi kind of groove, and it was really hard to get out of that when even I got back home a few weeks later.
Well, Stephen, when you know that you found the right cast, I mean, I think there's seldom do directors have a better experience knowing you found the people that are going to embody these characters that you've written. Once you had your cast, how long did it take to put everybody together?
I mean, because the movie was actually split into two sections, like we did 2 blocks, like one in November and then one, I believe it was like March into April of 2019. So the first block was more about casting PG and Pandora, like our hero and our villain.
Yes.
And so I was able to focus more on the creature side of things with that casting. And with Matt and Kristen, it was more just about getting them up to speed on what those roles would entail, because a lot of people, I think, have kind of a misguided idea of like what creature performing actually is. And so I really trained Matt and Kristen and everyone else that was in creature suits in the film, like, to understand that it is not an easy job. It is like really punishing and exhausting, and you have to like have the stamina for it. It is not glamorous at all. And so for that first block of shooting, that was my priority, was like getting the title character and our villains and kind of all that stuff lined up. And then for block 2, it was about lining up, the Hallenbeck family, all the supporting characters as well, all the human characters.
Right.
That all got sorted with block 2. So I was lucky in that the movie was spread out that way. It's not a typical way of shooting an indie movie, but it afforded me a lot of extra time to sort out all those details and get things the way I wanted them.
I think some of the great fun of this movie is the different creature designs and characters and things that you've come up with. And I was curious, having a makeup effects background, when you were writing the script, were you also sort of in your mind either doing sketches, or did you have a picture of what you wanted all of these characters to look like?
I mean, I had a very rough idea of what I wanted stuff to look like, just a vague, like, tonal concept of each character. I mean, in the script, it would have like Death Trapper is like a big bucket with body parts coming out of them, or like Queen Obelisk is made out of tombstones and vines. Like it would be that kind of like simple log line for each character. And then when it came down to actually building, like the actual creature effects build, that's when I started developing and really fleshing out what these things were, because a lot of them were built out of like what I had access to. Like this was such a low budget movie, and our budget, especially for creature effects, was insanely low for a movie that is, one of its like starring characters is a creature effect, is kind of insane. So we had to really do everything the low budget way, where it was like, I have a bunch of these like foam mats sitting in the corner. I'm going to glue those together, and that'll be Death Trapper's bucket. Or yeah, just like kind of finding stuff I had around and being like, this is going to be this monster now. So it was really like a beg, borrow, steal, like DIY low budget approach to all of these creatures.
Well, I mean, I think it really there's kind of this verve and joy in this movie. Like you can't not watch this movie with a smile on your face. And it's just so much fun. I can only imagine making this movie, aside from the nightmares you probably had whenever you're dealing with lots of creatures. I mean, you don't just have one creature on camera, you've got many sometimes, and that can always be problematic. Was it problematic? I mean, did you have to realize these creatures and get them on camera the way you wanted to? Was it difficult, or because of your background, was it easier than you might have thought?
I mean, when you don't have a lot of money, yeah, it becomes very difficult. Sometimes I forget that these creatures have people inside of them that, you know, need to go to the bathroom and have a drink of water and that kind of stuff. So when you have a ton of creatures on set, that's like that many people you have to babysit and make sure aren't going to like pass out on the day.
Right.
And so it was just a lot of moving parts to make this stuff happen. And I really have to give credit to like our production team, especially our first AD, Scott, for just keeping everything kind of going, like keeping the train going when it easily could have derailed at any moment because of any one of these creatures faltering for a million different reasons. And also just our creature effects team on set for just, you know, patching stuff up with duct tape and crazy glue and making sure stuff didn't fall apart on camera was super crucial. So yeah, credit to them as well for making this happen.
And Nita and Owen, being on set with these creatures, I mean, you as actors, you have to take this seriously, the scenario. Did you ever sometimes just look at these creatures and crack up? Or how was it for you as actors? Were you able to take it seriously? I mean, the movie's really hilarious. And what was it like being on that set, playing these parts and trying to stay in character when all of these creatures are wandering around?
Well, okay, so the thing is, we were in like this house for most of this movie. And you know, you'd never really know when you were gonna round the corner and see a big monster or CPG or Death Trapper or whoever it was. And you know, sometimes with PG Matt, we joke around, me, Owen, and him. And sometimes it was really late nights, like late nights, especially for how young we were at that time. So that just made everything 10 times funnier for some reason. Sometimes it was hard to stay in character or even just say our lines without laughing at each other if we looked at each other for too long. But it was really fun no matter what. And it was really cool going to work every day and seeing monsters everywhere.
What about you, Owen?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with her completely. Seeing the monsters everywhere was insane, but I love the monsters. Like when you see it on screen, it's like one thing, but when you see it in real life, like there's a whole nother level of appreciation to that because you can just see every little detail that you might not catch on screen.
Right.
And Steve actually let me keep one of Death Trapper's hands because Death Trapper was my favorite monster out of all of them. I've had this here waiting on that question.
That foam is probably rotten and smells horrible now. So I apologize to your family for having to put up with that.
Now, Steven, obviously when you're, call it budgetarily challenged, you know, when you're making an independent film, you never have enough time, you never have enough money, and having those two blocks to shoot in makes it a lot easier. I mean, I can't imagine what that was for you as a director, being able to have that extra time. But were you able to, when you're working like this, you're and having makeup effects, trying to direct, worrying about the camera, it's a lot of work. Was it daunting for you as a director? Did you find that even though the film, it feels like it was hilarious to make and it must have been a lot of fun to be on set, was there enormous pressure on you?
I guess there was, but I wasn't really feeling it. I don't know. It's just like every movie I've ever made has been too ambitious. There's always too much going on. Like I'm making this much movie, this much movie with this much money. I've never not had that situation. So like that pressure is just so familiar to me that I can just lean into it and be like, all right, well, we're, you know, going an hour long today and we're over budget and producers are getting upset. And it's like, that's just making movies. Like that's what happens. Like you can't really, when you're in it, when you're making the thing, like you can't let that pressure get to you because everybody's relying on you. So you kind of have to just be this sponge, and like also a punching bag for everyone else, and just got to take it because it's like on me to get us to that finish line. And so I'll just like, you know, crash real hard when the movie is done.
Right.
But when I'm when I'm in the moment, you know, you got to stay focused. But also I find just because I'm such a kid at heart with this kind of thing that it's easy for me to like have the energy to do this stuff when I've got like monsters and robots and like sparks and blood flying everywhere. Like all this insanity is happening and it's just so energizing that it's like, I feel like no problem is insurmountable because you're just like already in a crazy fantasy world. So it's, I don't know. It's just like, that's where I want to be. So I'll take the pressure with that because it's just so much fun no matter what.
I'm curious about the influences, things that I don't know why, but there's a 70s goofy movie called Inframan that I really, really love. And I don't know why, but Psycho Gorman kind of reminded me of Inframan. You know, the villain's name was Princess Dragon Mom, and she's got all these different creatures. And I love Inframan. And I was curious, what are some of your touchstone movies that inspired you with this? Because it just seemed like that this a life of being an imagination connoisseur. You had to have been drawing upon many favorites and things when you wrote the script. What are some of your great influences?
I mean, the like obvious one as like a framework is like E.T. and
Sure.
like, that type of movie was an inspiration. The 1990 Ninja Turtles movie was a big inspiration. Masters of the Universe, the feature film, was a big inspiration. I was inspired by movies that were like adaptations of properties that didn't have the budget to do it like in the epic way it needed to be. Masters of the Universe specifically, so they would be set in suburbia, which it's just like almost a genre in itself to me, like that or Suburban Commando, where it's like you got a lot of big ideas, but they're like, yeah, but it'll all be like in a house and like on a street and like just all these normal places, but you've got guys in weird costumes and swords and lasers walking around. So that was an inspiration. Definitely, yeah, like stuff in the genre of Inframan. I was inspired by, like I grew up on Power Rangers.
Sure. Captain
Power is always an inspiration of everything that I do. There's a film called Mechanical Violator Hokkaido that I really love. And that one, I feel like tonally it has some similarities to PG as well, with like the kind of role reversal of the more villainous looking character being the hero and the more like angelic hero character being the villain. So yeah, that one was a big inspiration. Yeah, a lot of anime as well, like Fist of the North Star is like always going to be burned in my brain just as like a style of like execution to a story. And also just like, I don't know, I've been raised on like badly dubbed kung fu movies and anime and badly dubbed video games like House of the Dead. So I feel like that also influences everything I make. There's like everything's just like slightly off in a way that I find really charming and funny. So yeah, those are just some of my inspirations. It's all over the map.
Now, Nita and Owen, when you started working with Steven, did he share these things with you? Did he give you a list of things maybe you want to watch or look at before you made the movie?
Yeah, he shared a few things with us. Well, with me at least. Oh darn, I forgot what the name of the movie was because it was like 2 years ago when I saw it. You recommended a movie to me that you absolutely loved, and you were drawing like a lot of inspiration from. And I saw it, and that really helped with kind of just being there with the characters. Do you remember the name?
Would it have been Masters of the Universe? I feel like that was one I was pushing on
Possibly.
people.
I think it could have been.
I remember being hesitant about like what I could recommend to both of you at the time because I didn't want to scar you / turn you off of the project. So I think I had to like kind of moderate what my recommendations were.
I think, was it called Monster Squad? Possibly.
Yeah, Monster Squad. That's a good reference. That was another inspiration as well. Fred Decker's Monster Squad.
Yeah, which is a wonderful movie that has kind of, I mean, a similar feel. You know, kids discover wish fulfillment. They're the universal monsters. If you guys haven't seen it, it's terrific. You know, it's funny you mentioned that because absolutely there's a lot of Monster Squad in this.
Oh, definitely. Just like with the idea of like a monster ensemble, I think that movie influenced me. I love the idea of having like a squad of creatures that all have kind of like a different flavor to them, and they're just like mashed together. Yeah, Monster Squad is great. We actually used the font of the opening crawl in Monster Squad. We used that same font for the opening crawl in PG as well. So,
right.
Yeah.
Did you watch any movies in preparation for your role in this to play Mimi?
I was gonna say like Luke, like Owen said, it was about 2 years and a half ish now. So it's hard to remember, but I don't remember personally watching any films. I'm sorry, Steve, if you did send some in. But maybe what I liked the most about it is Steve gave me so much liberty with how Mimi is going to talk or her expressions or anything like that. He let me really tailor it to what made me more comfortable and what made Mimi so great, I find, because it was catered to what I would have said if I was that character, which I was. But I really just went off what it felt right. And judging from the movie, I think Mimi was pretty crazy.
Well, you did a fantastic job. We have another clip to show. And if we could show that clip, I don't know what the clip is, but Shudder brought some clips for us to show. So if we could show yet another clip from Psycho Gorman.
And confirmed our suspicions. The ultimate evil has awoken.
How can this be possible? Who could have deciphered the sequence that released the gem of Proxidike?
I approved the sequence myself. Whoever solved it must have intelligence that far surpasses our own. Which is a notion that I find quite preposterous, I must say.
Preposterous?
That's right.
Enough!
Our mistake was being merciful to that demon, instead of wiping him from the galaxy forever.
It is clear that the rules of the Gygaxian Unity Accords have failed us. What do you suggest we do, Templar Pandora?
It's time to enact justice through the Templar Code. There will be no trial for that abomination. The only verdict is for him to die by my hand.
He has single-handedly extinguished entire planets from existence. How do you expect to defeat him on your own?
I do not fear him. I have faith that the gods will watch over and protect me.
Ooh, sounds like a load of superstitious nonsense to me.
What was that?
No, I didn't say anything.
You don't believe me?
I'll believe you, Templar. It's just the boys having a laugh and just a bit of...
Just what?
I think it's an excellent plan, so why don't we just move on? Lots of things to discuss here. So...
Well, okay, that's a great clip, and it really shows the diversity of the creatures and the various techniques you use to bring those characters to life. And I have to say, the voice performances for these and the way you use post-production to affect the voices it's so good. And was that something that how did you come up with these things? I mean, all the characters are so distinctive, and you've got great voice actors and the actors that are in the costumes. That's an extra added layer. And what was that like for you?
I just want to point out that for all you Void heads out there, that's Kenneth Welsh, who played Dr. Powell in The Void. We got to narrate the film and then also voices Judicator, which is funny because that character like is sitting next to a guy who we called Star Striker 77. He's got like orange armor, and his creature suit is actually the Dark Powell suit from The Void, just repurposed as well. So just an example of us being super low budget. But yeah, it's a thing that like goes back to my stop motion days of doing animation and then doing voice work for those animations and affecting the voices and kind of building characters like with their voice performances as well as the physical performance. And I've always had like that separation like with creature like design and execution. Like I was treated as two separate things. Like there's the visual and there's like the audio component. And so yeah, I love like kind of designing like weird sounding voices for characters and as a way to like give them personality, especially considering these characters being so inspired by kind of like Power Rangers type monsters where they're not exactly mobile. Like they're not the most expressive things. Like Judicator's mouth could open and close, and like that's about the most complicated thing that can happen with a lot of those characters. So if you've just got like a static like snake face, you're going to want a voice that comes out that kind of compensates for that lack of mobility. So yeah, trying to inject as much personality into the vocal performance as possible is super crucial to me.
Well, and what I love about that particular scene is you just go for it. You have a visual effect. You've got is that a miniature? Was that a miniature of the place that they're in?
The shot of the tower was a miniature, and then when we go inside, it's like a digital matte painting.
Yeah,
that goes into live action, and then we go back to another matte painting when she's looking at the statue later. So it's like all kinds of effects mashed together.
Well, that's one of the things I think is it makes this movie so much fun to watch. It's. I mean, you've got a hologram in that scene. Within the live action footage. You're mixing and matching all different kinds of effects work, all in one scene, and and you do that throughout the film, and it just makes the movie so much. I mean, as someone like myself who grew up with this stuff, you can't help but just it just puts a huge smile on your face to watch this movie. I can't stress that enough. And you like you said, even though you had a low budget, you never hesitated. I mean, it's pretty gonzo what you're doing. The fact that you are, yes, here's a digital matte painting and here's a miniature and here's live action. You're incorporating holograms in your live action footage. And then you've got 8 different monsters sitting around a table, like in Star Wars. That's on the conversation they have on the Death Star. It's almost the same thing. Your sad devotion to that ancient religion, is not helping you conjure up.
It's very much referencing that scene, of course. And we forgot to mention that there's also a stop motion character that shows up partway through the scene as well. So the sequence really has like everything. I mean, the whole like point of that scene was to like kick people in the face with effects.
Right.
Like up to that point, you kind of feel like you're watching one kind of thing. Like you think it's just going to be on Earth and it's just going to be like Mimi and Luke interacting with PG and like pretty small. Like it seems like we're setting up a pretty small movie. So cutting to Gygax and showing all this craziness was my way of like making the movie take a complete left turn and trying to like throw the audience off. So it's like you don't know what kind of movie you're getting at this point. So it was important to have as much stuff hit the screen in that scene as humanly possible.
Oh, and you do, and you have a D&D reference, Gygax, which is great.
Yeah, I did change the spelling slightly because I think isn't he G-Y?
Yeah,
I think, and I did G-I.
Yeah,
to avoid any sort of legal ramifications. But yeah, the inspiration is definitely there.
So I'm curious, Owen and Nita, when you first saw this movie, because obviously. Were you present when they shot the scene that we just saw? Like, or were you not? You weren't a part of that at all.
That scene was block 1, so that was before they were even casting.
Okay.
We shot this months in advance of the principal photography.
So I would be curious, when you two finally saw the movie cut together, finished, did you visit the edit bay when they were putting it together? And when you saw the finished film, what did you guys think? Because you must have, I would only imagine it must have been so great at being in that second block to see what you had you didn't know what it was going to look like, and to sit down and watch this for the first time. What was it like for you both?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you guys can go.
It was crazy because I thought I had seen every single monster already, or every single creature, and then when I saw the finished product, it was like, oh, okay, so there's like 30 more than I've already seen. Like, and the VFX were like great. So seeing everything together was way different than seeing what I was in, at least.
Right. What about you, Nita?
Yeah, it was really a crazy movie, even just seeing, pre-edited kind of version without any CGI or effects on it. It was really cool. Then when I seen the whole thing put together with all the special effects, it was really cool. And same thing that Owen said, you think you knew every monster, but there was a bit more than just, Pandora, Psycho Gorman, and all of them. There's so many more, and there's a lot of clips that we didn't get to see or get to see filmed even. So it was really, really cool.
When you guys were acting with Psycho Gorman, and obviously the design of that character is a lot of fun. Were there times, was it hard to act when you're basically acting opposite the most dangerous creature in the universe, and you're supposed to be in that headset or a mindset, and then yet when you're acting, did you guys just crack up? Were you able to stay in character? Was it hard to keep those characters straight when you're doing scenes with, makeup effects, walking makeup effects?
Yeah.
The whole time.
For sure. It was hard sometimes, even just to picture what Steve was really trying to do, because he wasn't the most demanding director ever. He was, pretty nice. Sometimes, he was very, but he was really nice.
Oh, it all comes out now, huh?
But it was really fun, and it was a bit hard sometimes, but as you said, Scott, the AD, kept us pretty much on track.
And what about you, Owen?
Yeah, there were definitely some hard times. There's a scene in the woods that I did that was especially hard because he was wearing that cowboy outfit, because I think you showed it in the fight clip. He was wearing that cowboy outfit, and it was just a really funny scene. And it was really hard not to laugh. So I kind of deep down, I think of the creepiest stuff I could think of, just to kind of keep me keep composure and not laugh. Because it was even funny because Nita kept making faces off screen. Every single time, if she was off screen and I had to act, or if she was on screen and I didn't have to act, we would always try and make faces and make each other laugh, which was kind of,
we were not nice to each other. We really did act like brother and sister. The connection was unreal. When we got there, sometimes I even apologized to Luke. I was Mimi in real life to Luke, and Luke was so nice and sweet. And I really don't know how Owen did it for the month. I feel really bad. Sometimes I remember things I said or things that I did. It was not good.
Yeah, she was definitely a pain for a while. She was
wow.
She was all over the place, because then she started getting tired, and oh my god, it got crazy.
Stephen, Justin Giallo asks in the chat, he says, will there ever be a Psycho Gorman sequel or prequel even? Please say hell yes. And I would ask the same thing, because I'm thinking there's a whole Marvel Cinematic Universe here with Psycho Gorman and all the characters. I would like to see multiple movies in this universe. Do you have plans?
Well, I think the first question is, Nita, Owen, are you guys up for more PG stuff?
For sure.
If you're not, then we can't do it. Okay, good. Okay, well, they're on board, so I feel like something's going to happen then. I can't get into specifics.
Make Luke really cool. Make Luke fast. Make him
we'll
strong.
You and I will have to have a talk after. I have some ideas for Luke that you may not like. But yes, there's stuff in the works. I'm not going to say what. I'm literally working on it right now in between doing stuff like this. Because, yeah, I want more PG stuff just like everybody else. So it's just figuring out what the best avenue is for that. And so, yeah, things are in the works. Can't say what, but there will be something.
I want action figures too, just so you
Yeah,
know.
well, Plastic Meatballs, they've already got the first two available for pre-order, I believe. And I think they're being released in the fall. They've got a PG and a Pandora figure, and the hope is to do more if they sell well. So, yeah, go to plasticmeatball.com to get your PG toys.
Now, I'm curious. Have you ever? What was it like? What was it like? Have you screened this for an audience, like in a theater? Like, was there showing it to people? But was this film ever screened? And did you get to watch this with a live audience?
The only audience I've been able to watch it with was a crew screening that we did, like back in beginning of March 2020. And that's the only time I've sat in a theater and watched it, aside from like a quality control check that we did just to make sure that, you know, there were no issues with the film for like Blu-ray and DVD release. So yeah, I haven't had that fun catharsis of watching it with an audience of randoms who don't know what the movie is.
Right.
'Cause that's the experience I want. And as a filmmaker, you kind of need that to kind of conclusively be like, all right, the movie's done. It's out in the world now. Other people are watching it and enjoying it. I can move on to other things. I think the pandemic kind of screwed that up for a lot of filmmakers. So yeah, I mean, I hope someday down the road we can do like some revival screenings or something for it that we can all go to and enjoy and, you know, see it with an audience the way it's meant to be seen. It was very much made as a movie to be seen in a theater with genre fans. Like it's very much a festival movie. And so
or a midnight movie.
Yeah, totally. So the hope is someday I'll be able to watch it with a crowd and have that experience because, yeah, it deserves to be seen with a crowd.
Now, I'm curious for both Nita and Owen. When you've made a movie like this, do you tell your friends like it's going to be on Shudder? Are you guys going to have a party? People are going to see it. Are you excited to have a movie like this come out? And does that make you both the coolest people in school, assuming you can go back to school because of COVID? But what's it like to be a youngster and have a movie like this coming out?
Well, I live in a really small community. I'm talking for maybe 7,000, if that.
Wow.
So and it's mostly elderly. So when one older person hears about it, then two hears about it, and then just the whole town, the community knows about it. So I didn't actually get to tell anybody that didn't already know that it was coming out.
Okay.
But I had a little screening with my family and a few friends because we're in this sort of, you know, global pandemic. So I wish I could have seen it in film. That would have been great too. But I did have a little show for my family and friends.
That's cool. What about you, Owen?
Yeah, I definitely spread it around a lot, but like the saying, like with the pandemic, you know, there wasn't a lot that you could have done. I had a small watch party, but seeing yourself on TV or just on anything, it's no matter how well you do, it's really hard to watch yourself. So
I agree.
seeing everyone like laughing at it, I'm just thinking to myself, they're lying. They're teasing me. Like it's really hard to see yourself and be like, oh, I did well.
Right. But I mean, and Steve, for you, you know, you've gone through this obviously before, but I mean, there's so much goodwill. This movie, I remember I saw the trailer when it first dropped. It had to have been 6 months ago, maybe.
Well, there was a teaser that dropped before. Was supposed to be before its world premiere at South by Southwest in 2020. There's like a minute long teaser.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the full trailer from RLJ and Shudder dropped. I think it was like December of last year.
Right. Yeah. So it's like 6 months ago. And I remember thinking that I'm like, oh, like somebody made a movie just for me. Like this is, I'm watching this and it was hilarious. The whole thing was hilarious. And the thing that really struck me and what I really do love about this film is the performances, and not just the two of you, but also all the creatures and everything. There is something about the conviction. Like this could have been something that the fact that you treat it absolutely real. It's almost like deadpan, especially the performance of Psycho Gorman is it's what makes this movie great. And I think that could have been something. The tone of this movie is what makes it, and it could have gone many different ways. And I would ask you, was that something that you were keenly aware of? Because you are really walking a tightrope. I mean, it could have fallen into just parody. I mean, I think the fact that there's so much conviction here, and that's what makes it so much fun to watch. You know, it's not like you've set out to make, say, an asylum movie like Sharknado or something. You're like, no, this is real. The stakes are real, and this could be the end of the universe or something. And I loved that about this movie. And I was wondering, was that something you were aware of while you made it? Was tone a big part of what you're trying to do?
Oh, 100%. My reference point for a lot of comedy is always Leslie Nielsen's performances in movies, like in Airplane. Like his stuff is funny because he's playing it straight. Like you have to take the craft and the work seriously and believe the world that you're in. And I mean that applies to any kind of performance, even like in a dark, gritty horror movie. Like you have to like sell those moments. And in comedy, it's the same thing. Like you have to sell the world and the situation. And it's when you get too like winky, like at the camera, like you're just breaking the illusion, and then you're not really telling an engaging story. It's like you're kind of taking the stakes out of your story. And if there's no stakes, then like why would anyone really give it their full attention? You know, if that makes sense. Like I wanted to make a movie that, yes, is absurd and very cartoony and at times just flat out stupid, but like I wanted it to still feel real and for it to be like feel legitimate, even though it's insane and absurd.
And I have to say that might be my favorite aspect of this movie. And the two of you also, as performers, as the actors, you sell it as well. Because I don't like things that are camp necessarily, but this has such conviction that it can be campy, but because you sold it with this conviction, it makes it even better, and it's just so good. SPF Entertainment says Psycho Gorman is just so good because of the real visual effects and the creative design, and I can't second that notion enough. I mean, your conviction, Stephen, as a director and a writer, what you did, you made this work, and it really is. I mean, I can't imagine anybody watching this movie and not have a smile on their face.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's all we wanted to do was just make the funnest movie possible and make a kind of movie that I feel like we're not getting enough of right now.
Right.
Like it's the kind of movie that I grew up on, and it has that kind of creative energy that I think we need more of in genre cinema. A lot more like genre bending and a lot more like being overly ambitious, even if your budget maybe doesn't allow for it. Like always aim to go as big as possible, in my opinion.
I agree, and you've been doing that a lot with your work, and I think that kudos to you, sir, because like you said, we need more of that. And Owen and Nita, I mean, I'm sure you guys are going to spend a lot of time, hopefully, in this universe, coming back. No matter what happens to you, Owen, I think you should do it anyway. Do what Steven tells you to do. Yeah, you got to come back, and Nita, you too. The fate of the universe is in your hands, after all.
Yes, I will.
It really is.
And we have run out of time. This has been a great panel. I want to thank all three of you for being here, for being at the Mid May Massacre, and I want to thank Shudder for providing clips. We have one more clip to show. I guess we'll go out on that. But thank you for being here. Thanks for being on the panel. But most of all, thank you, all of you, for Psycho Gorman, which debuts on Shudder this coming week. Man, am I excited that everybody's going to see it.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be worried. When I'm free of your daughter's control, I will bathe in your blood.
Eiji, you're such a
whack job.